right, now to kick things off, I'm joined by Washington correspondent for the Australian newspaper and great friend to this program, Adam Creighton. Adam, welcome to the U.S. Report. Look, I guess the first thing we have to talk about here is this latest hurricane, Hurricane Milton, and where they get these names from, I'll never know, but it's made landfall in Florida, cut a swathe of destruction. What's the latest, and what are the politics of this storm here? How are they going to wind up affecting things like people even being able to vote in some of these affected counties?
Yes. Well, certainly, I think at least 10 people very tragically have lost their lives in this hurricane. And that, of course, comes after, I think something like 200 lost their lives in the previous hurricane just a couple of weeks ago, slightly north of Florida. So it's been a tragic few weeks for that part of the United States. And of course, we don't even have cost estimates yet. The financial damage will also be extraordinary. The political implications, I think, are quite interesting. Of course, this is not going to be a Hurricane Katrina like 2005, where, it was widely perceived, and I think very accurately, that the Bush administration did a terrible, terrible job. Most of the governors, including Republican governors, they've said fairly nice things about the Biden administration. They've said that they've done a good job. But I think for Kamala Harris in particular, and for her campaign, this has not been great, these two storms. I mean, starting right out from the get-go, she was swanning around San Francisco at fundraisers, I think 3 or 4 days after the first hurricane actually hit landfill. And that was a very bad look. And of course, Donald Trump took advantage of that. And there's been a lot of claims that FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Agency, has not been prioritizing certain Republican parts or not. There's no evidence of that I've seen, but nevertheless, the political damage, I think, has been done, and certainly Donald Trump himself has amplified those claims. But I think the bigger problem for Democrats is you've got tens of billions of dollars going to Ukraine, going to the Middle East. We all know that. And yet there's all these images on the news every night of ordinary Americans suffering and struggling to get their financial checks from the government. So, whatever Democrats say about, look, there's enough money, there probably is, but the optics of it are just terrible.
And, I mean, speaking of optics, Kamala Harris, as I spoke about in the beginning of the program, tried to make this a very political thing, tried to slam Ron DeSantis. But, we've seen photos of Joe Biden and Ron DeSantis shaking hands, being very cordial about it. You can see it there on the screen. And both DeSantis and Biden have praised one another for the way they've been able to work together on this. So really, doesn't that make Harris look quite small and political here?
Yeah, look, I think it really does. I mean, just this morning, I'm pretty sure DeSantis said at a press conference that the vice president has no role. And in fairness, she does have no role in this particular occasion. She was trying to insert herself into this politically. That is fairly obvious, and it backfired. This probably goes to the broader point that there's growing tension, I believe, probably between the president and the vice president. She's obviously trying to disassociate herself from that administration. And probably on a personal level, he doesn't like that very much because, of course, he knows that she was involved in all of the major decisions. And so, he's making these statements. And this is not the first one, by the way. I mean, just a few weeks ago, he said that she'd been involved in every decision of the administration.
That's right.
Right? And so he's really rubbing it in. And I think she's going to be worried about that because what's he going to say over the next 2 weeks? So she's going to, she's basically walking on political eggshells here.